Oh, hold on.
I just want to say hi, Molly Man. I missed you, Molly Man.
Hold on, I'm trying to figure it out.
There you go.
Did I? All right. Hold on, I was looking at some stuff. Okay, so welcome everyone. For people who don't know me, I'm Michelle Kurtz. I'm in the Northwest Indiana office. I started with KW about 4.5 years ago, and I started on a team, and I started as an ISA. So I used to lead gen 6 hours every day. My goal was 100 contacts a day. And so this new thing of lead genning for 6 hours a day is where I started. And it's really something that I really do like, which seems crazy to a lot of people, but I didn't always like it. It's just once you practice and you do it, you really get good at it, and then it's super easy. So basically the things we're gonna go through today is perspective, Outwit, Outplay, and Outlast, how to make it in the market, find the motivated people, the sources of the leads, and your bottom line. So right now the market is shifting. It's, the amount, it says here the amount of leads has been diminished. This is a little bit older. Right now we're not seeing a whole lot of that, but right now it's that people aren't ready to move right now. So you need to make sure that you put yourself in front of them. And lead generation is your business. I think we all know that. We've heard that in every call that we do, from the beginning. Bold lead generation is where you where you get your money and where you find your business, and that's how you get the clients. So basically there's around lead generation, there is a lot of times there's the negative framing around it. People have, a hard time getting into it and things like that. And so I'm here today to help you just get more realistic about what your negative mindset is around it, how to erase that, and how to embrace it. So I looked up some new statistics, and for 2020, the NAR is projecting that we'll have 6,320,000 units total. And so that is about 13 million sides, and there's a little bit less than 2 million agents, but almost around the same thing. And that number will diminish. So there's plenty of business for you to meet your goals. And so all you need to do is get to work. So right now, think about just for a minute what your feelings, emotions, and your expectations are from lead gen. And if you're comfortable, some people, let me know what you feel about lead generation.
Michelle, so what came up in our team huddle this morning was, which I thought was kind of brilliant, is that if we're doing our lead gen, we're doing our conversations, we're reaching out, what we're running into at this point is people who have genuine fear, man. People who have genuine fear of what's going on. So how can we pivot the conversation, continue the conversation when we have to sit in the reality of what we're doing?
Right, absolutely. There is a pandemic. I mean, that's a fact. Okay. Anyone else? Right now, we'll get to that, David. Thank you.
I think
can I give a thought?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, no. We're seeing a lot of people apprehensive to want to call their database because they feel like they're being insensitive in this time of need, or in light of the current situation, rather. And I would say that it's quite the opposite. That if we're not talking to the people that we know and care about in our database right now, and then we start calling, say, like, for instance, hypothetically, the curtain gets lifted on April 30th, and then on May 1st, we start calling them. Now we're going to seem like we don't care, and we're only after our commission checks. So I would advise people to start changing their thinking as far as how they're treating the people they know right now.
Absolutely. And now going back to when I started as an ISA, I did expireds and FSBOs and all calling and circle prospecting and all these things for a team. So I was very comfortable calling strangers, and the person that trained me wasn't very comfortable calling his sphere. So that was something that was hard for me to do. I got over it because that's your database is your business. And I have found right now is the easiest time, like Mark was saying, to call your database because everybody is worried. So David, to that point, everyone is worried. So call and say, on our 10:30 huddle this morning, Tony talked about call and say, what can I do for you? You know, how are you feeling? How are you handling this? And people are home. They do want to hear from you. People are also bored now. We've been in the house for a month. And so their brains are going wild with everything that could happen. They might have financial problems. They have other things. And to reach out and say that you care right now is the most effective way to build a relationship. And when you're doing that, make sure they're in command or whatever database you're using, and take a note, like take a note as to what's happening in their life. Write something down, because then when you go back and you have another conversation, when they call or you set a task or you're just following your 36 touch and talking to them once a quarter, you go back and your memory is jogged and you remember what they were talking about, that maybe someone that they knew had been affected by COVID, or somebody, something happened in their life, or somebody's getting married and they're worried about how it's going to turn out. When you call them back at that time and say, oh, hey, how are things coming with your daughter's wedding? I know she was supposed to get married in August. How are things coming along? That's how you build a relationship and make sure that they know that you actually do care. And when you bring that up, and then you have a client for life. So I appreciate that, Mark. Anyone else have anything else about what is?
Yeah, I actually have a question. So as far as, okay, so I get calling to like the care calls. What happens if you hit the voicemail, or what's like a, you don't want to be bombarding them saying, how you doing? But at the same time, you would like to make that personal touch, or, I guess what's a good way, or like via text. Obviously reach out for the call, I mean, if you can, but then if you hit a voicemail, what kind of message do you leave? And then how do you follow back up, like in a week or two? I guess what's a good way to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the message that I leave right now is, hey, I was just thinking about you. I do almost all of my business from my database. So I reach out to the people and say, hey, just checking to see, how is your kid from college doing? How are you doing? Because you're a nurse. How are you, just something that you know about them. I just wanted to see how things are going with you. If you have time and you'd like to call, give me a call. If not, I'll try and reach out again in a week or so and see how you're doing. And if that way, when they see your number again, don't want to say, hey, give me a call back, because when you say that puts them on the spot to call you. So then when they see your number again, they say, oh my gosh, I never called them back, and don't answer again. When you say, oh, I'm going to try and call you back, and you call them in a week, then they will answer the phone, because they know that you are, you're genuinely concerned about them. You can also follow up with a text. I have a bunch of people in my database because my nieces and nephews are all in their mid-20s and early 30s, that they don't pick up the phone. They don't want to talk on the phone. And so you start a text conversation, a Facebook message conversation, that's still being genuine with them and talking in the way that they want to communicate.
So maybe make a call, leave a message, and then at the same time, maybe follow up with a text just to do it. I mean, from
Absolutely.
that, and then maybe follow up in like 2 weeks or something like that, I guess.
Absolutely. And the people, like, it depends on who you're talking to. If if it's someone that is, there is some, there's not a set schedule, but if it is someone, and if you said you're going to call back in a week, set a to-do and set a task and call back in a week. Always, stick through with your commitments. Don't say you're going to call back and then not do it. Because then it really is, just you looking for business, it feels more like. But yeah, absolutely.
And then how about, and then following back, okay, so that's your database, right? So how about, so what do you do for, let's say, people that aren't the Mets, right? Like they kind of, you were exposed to them maybe at an open house, they signed in a sheet, or I'm just kind of thinking okay, if you are going to circle prospect or do something like that, how does that look basically?
I will tell you right now, I'm not doing any circle prospecting or
I
things
feel
like that,
relieved.
because it's because the circle prospect, is, hey, I just listed a house. Who do you know that wants to move in? When are you moving? No one's thinking. I mean, I'm not. If anyone else on the call is, you're more than welcome to jump in right now. But the people at open houses, anyone right now that you reach out to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I just want to see how you're doing. I know we met at the open house. If you come from contribution and come from it with your heart, they'll feel it. You know, it's just, you know, just wanting to see, you know, what you're doing. Just want to let you know, do you have any questions? You could, at that point, you can say, do you have any questions about the market? See where it's going first, you know, and then follow their lead. When you ask questions, you'll know where to go with the conversation.
Guys,
Okay.
so you'd like to kind of start off with, hey, I just was thinking of you. We met at an open house so a little bit back and just wanted to see how you're doing, and then kind of see where it goes from there, basically.
Absolutely. And you'll know, because if they start to talk about how freaked out they are because they lost their job and they, you know, all these things happen, you know, do you need anything? I have these resources, something like that, then you would not bring up, are you still looking for a house? They will bring it up. If they're saying, oh, we're still looking to move, then you know. I mean, I will tell you just on, and I have a little, I can't find it right now. It's a little cup that has 20 quarters in it that I pour out on my counter every day. And every time I make a contact, I put it in the little cup. And that way I make sure to make my 20 contacts every day. And sometimes it's more, but that's just my minimum. And I have 3 new listings. I have 4 new buyers. I mean, it's like, it's crazy the amount of people that are still looking to move right now, you know. And so don't let the media and everything, I think that's coming up later, the media and everything else scare people. Just be real with what's happening in the market. I know Kiki is sending out stats that shows what's been listed, what's been sold, you know, things that are happening in our market every day. And she's doing that for Costa Mesa as well.
Yes.
Okay, so that is in the Facebook groups, I know, and it just shows what's still happening and that there's a lot of things going on in the market. So make sure to give the facts from the real estate perspective as opposed to just what the media is telling everyone.
Yeah, and Sean, like yesterday when Jessica, I don't know if you were in the Empowered call, but you know, we had a call yesterday and Jessica just had a real good script. You go back and watch the video. I remember the script verbatim, but if you're still doing lead generation on Facebook, there's a way to follow up with people. And the best thing to say, you know, usually when I call my internet leads is, hey, I saw that you were browsing my Facebook, one of my Facebook ads, and just wondering how things are going. Are you just browsing right now? Because, you know, I know it's, you know, you're just sitting at home. Is there anything I can help you with? What do you like about the house? So there's a couple of different ways to approach, you know, different leads to still come from a point of contribution and not necessarily trying to see what you're going to get from them as far as a, you know, paycheck.
Absolutely. And I cannot see what was typed in the box. Are there questions in there or just comments? The chat room?
Questions that have already been answered, Michelle.
Thank you. Okay,
I'm
so
watching it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so the personal assessment is, you know, you have your goal, keep your goal, whatever your goal was. If you're double downing on lead generation right now, you will make your goals for 2020. It's that, just so keep doing what you're doing. Make sure you have an accountability partner or a coach. Right now, you know, you should always be doing lead gen at least 2 hours a day and during normal times. Right now we're home. Ramp that up to 4 to 6 hours a day, and just make sure that you're talking to people and getting in touch with them. You need to study your scripts, you need to practice, and you need to make sure that you take your lead generation time seriously. That needs to be a time that is sacred, that you make sure you are doing lead gen. You also, oh yeah, this is another piece. You want to know what's going on. This is where when Kiki sends out the information, that is for your market area. I also know, like, for example, in Homewood, which is mine, the number of homes that were sold in the last month were 21. There's 54 on the market right now. There's 46 pending. Only 9 expired, and it's an average day of 71 on the market. So I only have 2.5 months of inventory in my market. So when people call and they say, oh, I don't think it's a good time to sell, you know, you have your information ready so that you have, you know, statistics and facts to show them why, if they're ready, this is a good time. We're still able, to show houses as virtually as much as possible, you know, and talk to your team leader, your productivity coach, if you have any questions about exactly how you're supposed to be doing showings and things like that. Here's the biggest piece of this is just to know what's going on. The nice thing is people are actually putting the virtual tours on the new listings now. So you can preview so many homes, so many more homes than if you actually had to go show them. You want to get with the lenders to know what different financing options are now. And some things have tightened up with FHA and VA and things like that. But you definitely want to know what's going on in your market and what you can have to offer people to help them. We just went over that. That's what Kiki sends out every day. Oop. The price range that's most active in your market, it's going to be a little bit different from here and out on the West Coast, but just know that as well. These are the books that we've talked about over and over again. Shift, if you haven't read that, read it. If you have read it, read it again. Okay. Where am I in my? Okay, so this is the practice. For 30 minutes to 1 hour each day, you want to do script practice and role play. And that really helps to boost your confidence. It gets you excited to start it. I do mine right before I start my lead generation. I have a script practice or a practice partner that we commit to it every day. We also hold each other accountable. It also helps right now because we're actually bringing up we're doing the care call practices and bringing up the different objections that people have. So you definitely, the other thing about script practice and role play is I've had this partner for a really long time. So we're really good at going on, doing the script practice and then getting to work. It's harder right now to not have longer conversations, but you really want this to be about your script practice and getting good at what you do. You can set a time later if you want to talk about their families, talk about, because you care about each other. But when you're doing your script practice and role play, that's what you want that to be for. And then you want to jump right into your lead generation while you're fresh and ready to go. Okay, you time block for your practice. There is the lead generation 3612.3. That is in KW Connect. When I went in to get the information, there is a way that you can click and it tells you to purchase the material. You don't need to purchase the material. If you click on there, there's a second tab that says materials and you can pull everything up. It has all the scripts in there. It has different, the 36, everything that you need in order to do that. We're having Bold virtually, which I hope everybody knows and signs up for. That's going to be really amazing, but all that will help you with your business. So if you don't have role play partner yet, you definitely want to get one. If you don't know of where to get that, you can talk to your team leader or your productivity coach and they will help set you up with someone. Okay, so you definitely want to do, this says 3 hours. I would do at least 4 and probably 6 if in between all of our Zoom calls and everything else. And that is, and don't do that for 6 hours in a row. Make sure to role play, do lead gen for about 50 minutes, takes 10 minutes off, stretch, do something to get your mind off it, get something to drink, and then get back on task. And then if for some reason you can't do it for a day, I know there's a lot of people that are doing e-learning and helping their kids, just make sure that you get those contacts in every day so that you're ready when everything is lifted, you already have people in your pipeline and you're ready to move. All right, the 3 hours, and let's see. So this is, if you don't like to cold call strangers right now, don't cold call strangers. It's not a stranger if you met them in an open house. It's not, but you definitely want to do some of the script practice with expireds, with FSBOs. There's going to be a lot of that coming up in the future. You don't want to check your email when you're doing lead generation. Time block that for a different time in your day. And right now, the can't reach people in the morning is more for when we're all working and in the office. Right now, you can reach people anytime. But the truth is, even when we're not all in our houses, the morning is a perfect time. People do answer their phones. I mean, everyone has a cell phone now. They do answer their phones. They can say they'll get back to you, or you can leave a message and they'll call you back.
Michelle,
Yes.
someone had asked a question. I'd drop an answer, and I'm curious what you think as well. Someone says, what scripts are you using? That's the first part of their question. I know if you go to the link for pivot shift at KWRI, you scroll all the way down to the bottom. There's about 10 amazing scripts specific to this situation. But the question is, what scripts are you using when you're calling people?
Because I'm calling all of my database, my script starts out just like Tony was saying this morning. You know, how are things going financially? How are you doing at work? If I know, you know, I know their situations. I have about 700 people in my database, and my goal is to hit all of them in April. And so that's what I'm doing right now. But David's absolutely right. I've looked at those scripts just to help some of the people that are in my productivity coaching program, and they're really amazing. I mean, they address everything. And it really, the biggest thing now is just coming from contribution and coming from their heart and answering any questions they have on the market, which is why you need to know the facts and know what you're talking about. And then when you ask questions, the conversation leads down the path where then you'll have the information. And also be honest, if there's something they ask that you don't know, tell them you'll find out, and get in touch with someone in your leadership and find out and get back to them. You know, that it's okay to not know everything if there's something going on. Okay.
Absolutely.
Did something else just pop up, David, or no?
Not on my
Okay.
end. No, you're good.
Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide and then come back to this one. So there is CGI. If you have not set your goals in command with CGI, with your GCI, but it's those two things always mix me up. But there is a way that you can decide what you want to make for the year, and you work backwards based on either your conversion rate, or if you're newer, there are conversion rates, and it will take you all the way back to, this is how many contacts I have to make in order to sell this many houses, in order to make the money that you want to make. And so once you've done this, and that's in command, if you need help, get in touch with someone with your leadership, then you'll know how many calls you need to make, how many contacts you need to make, how many people you need to add to your database, how many appointments you need to set, and that will lead to the closings. One statistic that they have, and I always laugh because I say 95% of statistics are made up, which I just made that one up, but that they say that 10% of your database, whatever number you have in your database, that's how many deals you're closed. And I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. Last year, the beginning of the year, I had 350 people in my database, and I closed 35 units, which is why I got my database up to 600, because my goal was 600, now it's at 700. But it was 600 the beginning of the year because I want to close 60. So that is one statistic that's true. And so you just want to make sure you know what your goals are so that you can make the number of contacts to reach your goals. This is the wall of value. Basically what this is the 4 conversations. You'll need to know how many appointments you need to set in order to take the number of listings. And so everything to the left of the wall of value is what you control. You control how many listing appointments you set. You control the practice you do and how many listings you take. And then the closings and the profit, you know, we all have deals that something happens, something goes sideways. You know, if you do the stuff on the left, the stuff on the right will happen. Okay, so any questions about setting goals in command or anything with CGI? Okay, next we're gonna find the motivated. So the 2 M's of lead generation: method and message. You can't motivate someone, but it says motivate, but you can't motivate them. You wanna find the motivated people that are there. And you do this through prospecting and marketing. And so you need to do both of those. The prospecting is all your lead generation. The marketing, with what we have going on with not only with the technology and everything else, marketing is so affordable now compared to what it was even 4 years ago when I got in the market, and then 20 years ago when I was doing real estate before I had kids. Marketing was a huge chunk of, because you still had to put newspaper ads and things like that. So marketing is, with the internet and technology, there really is a lot that you can do. So you want to, you definitely want to match the market and make an offer. So you want to have your target audience and know your market conditions. And then there's direct offer. There's direct and indirect ways of marketing. And hold on, let me just catch up. I apologize. This is the first time I've done an online one.
You're doing great.
Okay, thank you.
You are awesome.
Thank you, Colleen.
No, really, this is fantastic.
Fantastic.
I'm taking notes too.
So make an offer for immediate response. Basically what this is saying is, you want to be direct in what you are asking people for. Now, right now in our environment, because we're starting with the care calls, it's not as direct as normal. Once you get to that point though, especially in a shift, you don't want to be the person who is not going after what, if someone says that they are interested, you need to be there ready for them. You need to have the information and you need to provide the service, because if you're not there, someone else will be.
Michelle, can I jump in this real quick?
Please do.
So in terms of the, the direct offer and things like that, yeah, everything that you're saying about, don't just jump right into that when you're making care calls in your database and all that, that's super important. I also think that if you're advertising, which we're talking about marketing, and we're not going to get into details, I don't know a whole lot here, but if you're marketing and people are inquiring on your marketing about real estate marketing, be direct. They asked you for real estate information. They said, I'm interested in that property, or, so I don't know that I'd bother doing the care component first. They engage with you in a real estate conversation. I'd just give it right back with
Yeah,
a direct approach.
Go ahead, Colleen.
And you're going to dig into that in the next 2 sessions about internet lead gen, right? Somebody's doing that one. Is that?
I have that one on Wednesday. We're going to be talking more about internet lead gen in specific. Although, here I'm, any form of marketing you're doing, if you got a billboard and someone called on it, you got a website, you got a whatever, direct mail, and they called you about real estate, skip the care call, talk about real estate, go direct.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and if they're reaching out to you and they're asking and engaging about real estate, then that's what you're going to talk to them about, because they started the conversation.
Right.
Thank you, Alex. Absolutely. Okay, so I think that one will work better if we were in a class. So we're going to move to the next one. So with prospecting, like I said, right now when you're prospecting, and this is the 2 different ways that you do it, with the direct response, and we're going to move, when you get to that, someone is ready to move and they are ready to list. So when you start out the conversation, are you thinking of moving? What do you want me to do, and things of that nature. Once you get to the point that they are, they're interested, then these are the indirect response, which are not quite as effective as the direct response. So if basically when you are, so in these, would you mind if I ask you a few questions? I'm doing a survey in the area. A more direct way, when you're saying, are you ready to sell your home? What's, what happens, and it comes to that they need to actually give you an answer. If you want, this is the marketing offers, and this is what Alex was talking about. If you want to sell your home now, call me. When they call you, then you service them and you do what you need to do. If there's marketing for the indirect response, then this is where you, hi, sorry, my kiddos just walked back in. Then this is where they will come to you and get the information. And then that is, that's where you reach out and you give them the information that they're looking for. This is the piece where, hold on one second. indirect. So I already covered this. The source of leads is where I was headed to next in my notes. So prospecting and marketing, we've already talked about prospecting with lead gen and with different things with the marketing, and Alex is going to get into more of this with the internet leads. But with prospecting, your cost is low. You can master it with direct offers. It's your quickest path to business. When you're talking to someone and you're on the phone, you're doing the prospecting, as soon as they say they're interested, you move forward and you have your scripts, you have your buyer and your lead sheets available, you have everything ready to just go and start work on the business. You definitely don't want any distractions. So when you're working in your kitchen, maybe not have your kids walk in while you're teaching a class or doing your lead gen. But definitely the other thing is you definitely want to mirror and match with for not only with your expressions, that is so important always, but right now especially when you call someone and you want to listen on the phone for their body language, you know you can't see them, but you can hear. You definitely, now what you want to do is meet them kind of where they are a little bit and then start to bring them up, start to help them feel better if they're feeling sad. If they're already happy, match it right then. And if someone speaks quickly, then you want to speak quickly. If someone speaks slowly, you want to speak slowly. You always want to mirror and match with everything with prospecting. It makes people feel more comfortable. It makes them feel, they will be more honest with you. And it's just mirroring and matching is one of the best, I don't know, it's a really great piece of the lead generation. So sources of leads. There are going to be more expired listings, and there will be FSBOs that really need your help that are going to be coming on the market. Expireds have not been a source very much in our area. There haven't been very many expired listings too recently. And one thing, just when you're first starting, you definitely want to practice with the expired listings and with the scripts with someone. The other piece is always remember when you're calling someone who has an expired listing, remember where they're coming from, because a lot of them are super angry. Their house has just been on the market for 6 months. It didn't sell. They want to be moved somewhere else. They want, they're mad. And so when their listing expires and the next morning by 8:15, they've gotten 15 calls from real estate agents saying, hi, I want to list your house. Hi, I want to list your house. It gets super frustrating for them. I mean, and so put yourself in their shoes and don't take any of it personally. I mean, when I was doing those calls, those were actually sometimes my favorite ones, because they would say, oh my gosh, you're the 15th person that's called me today. And I'm like, I know, we're vultures, we're crazy. And they're like, well, what? I'm like, yeah, this is, and they're like, well, where were you? And so just remember, they are upset, and it's with good reason. Somebody that is in your profession told them they were going to sell their house and they didn't. Yeah. And so now all of a sudden, all these people are calling. And when you treat them like a human being and understand that, yes, they're upset. Yes. And then I would always say, you know how to make them stop calling? Why don't I come over at 2 o'clock today and we'll list your house and I'll show you how I'm going to get it sold. And then that, but just remember, they're human beings that are in a really hard spot. They thought their house was going to sell 5 months ago, and especially that's going to happen now because the market is shifting. And so people up until this point, I mean, how many of us had people that are like, oh, I can't list my house until I find somewhere to live because I don't want to be homeless, right? I mean, that happened a lot of times. And those days are going to be, it's not going to be happening that way anymore. So it's going to take a minute for people, and they're upset. And the other piece is when you are making the calls, and whether it's circle prospecting or with expireds or FSBOs or anyone, we all have that horror story. I mean, I had someone that I was calling that he told me that he was going to call the police and have me be put in jail where I belonged. And there was someone else. I mean, there's crazy stories. Remember, I made 100 contacts a day for 6 months. And I have 4 stories that I could tell you of people that were horrible to me. Now, those stick in my head for sure.
Also, Michelle, my 4-year-old tells me he's going to put me in jail. So If we're comparing, how people's level of maturity response, I'm just saying.
Absolutely. And the day that I will tell you, the day the guy said he was going to put me in jail, I actually thought, and I may have said out loud, that, you know what, that doesn't sound bad. I get 3 meals and someone else is cooking them. Like, that is not, whatever. But the truth is that if I made, I'm not going to do the math real quick, but that many calls, and I had 4 people that were really, truly awful to me. You remember those, and most people are good. Even the ones that are upset that their houses haven't sold and things have not gone well, they're still not going to be that terrible to you. So don't let the 1 or 2 a week that are mean to you stop you from doing your job. Like, they can't hurt you through the phone. And the other truth is, once you stop getting bothered by the people being mean to you and hanging up on you and everything else that they're doing, it stops happening. It's amazing. Like, when you, and Mark, can you attest to that? Because you did a lot of expireds.
Yeah, the thought process was this: is I'm not going to let someone's reaction to my activities dictate my income level.
Absolutely. And were less people rude once you had that attitude, or not necessarily?
Yeah.
Or you just don't remember them?
Well, I do. I have a few horror stories myself. However, okay, so my coach told me this, right? He says, because we did a lot of cold calling, a lot of door knocking. It was, you have no idea what the person on the other end of the line is going through. They could have just found out they have a terminal illness, or a family member passed, or their significant other left them. And then you pick up the phone and call them, or you knock on their door, and then you get to deal with the reaction to the problem. But when they hang up the phone, they still have the problem. So he says, my question to you is do you want to have to deal with the problem or just the reaction to the problem? And so that was just kind of like the story I had in the back of my head. So that's when I came up with have the day you deserve, let karma figure it out. If you're a good person having a bad moment, have a great day. If you're a terrible person, then, let karma figure it out.
Exactly.
People laugh at my old company because I would just say, have the day you deserve. And they're like, what? Have the day you deserve. Have a nice day.
Well, that's exactly when you are yourself on the phone, and sometimes people like me who like to speak the truth have to maybe tame it down just a little bit. But when you are your genuine self on the phone, and you say things like have the day you deserve, it interrupts people's thought pattern. And then they're like, well, wait a minute, I deserve a good, it might get to where, so there's a reason that you set a lot of appointments when, number one, you keep going. You don't let one person that they're having a bad day affect your life. And, just go to the next. It really, especially at the beginning, just keep doing it. And then
I spoke to 9,000 people a year. So it's like, the other thought was don't get mad at the dirt for being dirt.
Right.
It's like, all right.
It's just,
I'm naturally sarcastic, so it helps me out a lot. And usually, like those people who are really the nasty ones, if you can hit them with a sarcastic remark, like it takes their wall down, and then you have a legitimate conversation. Then, like the expireds, it was the same thing. It's like, yeah, I get it, right? Because they're all mad, and like, I get it. Your house was on the market for 120 days. You've had to, and that's terrible, right? You had to live like a guest in your house for the last 4 months. You've probably seen every movie out there, because what were you going to do during the open houses? Am I right? And now, after your house hasn't sold, now 30 people have called you in the last hour. You're probably trying to figure out where the heck we all were the last 4 months, right? Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, where were you moving to?
Right. And you get their motivation, you figure it out, and you set the appointment. And it really is about being human and knowing your scripts and knowing, that is why role practice is so important, especially when you're starting to do the expires and the cold calls and the FISBOs, because you need to have that like this. You need to have all the objective handlers so that you can be human and you can use whatever they're, not use, but whatever they're saying, you can get to them, and so that you can have an open conversation. And if you're trying to think about what you're saying about your business, you're not going to be able to pay attention to them.
7 to 10 seconds. You have 7 to 10 seconds to capture them and engage them.
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
And you had it right from the get-go, right? It starts with the hello pace. You say hello, however they say hello. You talk through your nose, your throat, or your belly, because that's basic NLP. So that way you build rapport instantly, because we're tribal creatures, and we want, like, you and I speak. Oh, you speak my language, and now you can, slow. If they talk slow, you talk slow. If they talk fast, you talk fast.
Yep. Absolutely.
You're doing fantastic, Michelle. Thank you.
Yes, no, it's amazing. When I got really good at mirroring and matching, the appointments I set for my team went through the roof. Like, it was just because you're speaking their language, like Mark just said. That's exactly it. So that is that. Any questions on basically the expireds, FSBOs? Well, that's where that is. And then we'll get to open houses and investors.
Michelle, wouldn't you say that calling for sale by owners, or let's put a different spin on it, getting into conversation with for sale by owners at this point in time, right now, they're the most isolated group of people on the planet Earth. One, they're scared and they're in a pandemic. Two, they were realtor adverse and no one has been calling them, because in a market that was a seller's market, they were getting leads like that. And right now,
right,
a pin drop. And now would be an amazing opportunity for you to come from contribution and with a servant's heart to A, check on them and see where they're at the end of the day, and two, right, see how you can develop a relationship with them now and in the future. I'm just guessing.
It's crazy. We did night lead generation on Wednesday night from 5 to 7 as a group. And we called expireds, we called canceled, we called for sale by owners. And the cancels and expireds were like, what happened? My realtor literally refused to work.
Really?
Yeah. So
man.
Marcos in our market center is taking listings. I think he's like got 3 or 4 listings taken this week from expireds because the realtor does refuse to work. They're like, no, I'm not doing anything.
Okay.
Think about how great the opportunity is.
Dude, that's brilliant.
That's amazing.
Brilliant.
And clients have no clue what to do or what direction to go, because they relied on the person that was supposed to be helping them. And now it's a great opportunity for us to come in and say, hey, I'm here, I'm working, I will help you. I will walk you through everything.
But, and especially to go on that with what the media said, with, staying at home and what's essential and what's not. And we are there to help them then to navigate this whole thing and get their house sold, because their house was on the market for a reason. They want to move. I mean, they want to sell. To get buyers, we're not doing open houses right now, obviously. We are talking about doing virtual open houses in our market center that we'll have. We do a mini Paint the Town Red each month. And so David and Colleen and I were talking about that, and we need to get back on that. So we'll do that next week. But just to have virtual open houses, that's an option. I
can drop the link that Colleen had posted in our Facebook group to the virtual open houses here in the chat group. I don't want to continue to push it if people already have access to it, but it doesn't hurt to put it on there if that's what you want me to do.
That would be great.
Awesome.
Thank you. And there will be, the other thing is, because of what's happening in the market, there's going to be, I know David's getting his short sale credentials on right now. There's going to be other things, and there will be investors that are coming in to look for deals. So be the person that is there to help them. Your database right now, every single person in your database, you should reach out to before the shelter in place is lifted. And for that reason, like Mark said earlier in the conversation, you don't want to call them as soon as the market is booming to say, hey, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell? Because where were you when they were terrified, or they were, drinking too much because they were doing e-learning or any of the other things that are happening? You want to be the person now, so that when they're ready or they know someone that's ready, you're already top of mind. And that's, part of what we have at our incredible system with the 36 touch. You can have your campaign set up. You can have where you call them 4 times a year. You can, do your mailings, do whatever, whatever your 36 touch is. But definitely make sure that everybody knows that you are still working, because some agents are not. That's what we just learned there and what's happening. And then, just make sure that they know, and make sure that they know that you care about them. So the internet, this is from 2015, so it makes me laugh. I didn't know how to really increase, but a lot of these, videos, you can make videos right now, that's going to be super helpful. There's a lot of a lot of the companies now are offering to do the virtual tours of your listings, and that helps. There's a place in the MLS that you put that in there so that people can do it. Our Facebook ad campaigns through Command are amazing. They're having amazing results. Alex is going to cover that more next Wednesday, but there's definitely so many things you can do. Even getting out in your community, seeing what restaurants are still open, seeing what small businesses are open, what value can you bring, not only to help people, because that's your first thing, as David was saying, be a servant to your community, but also that gets your name out there and it gets people talking and people will remember you. So that is what I have to say about that. There's still new construction, especially, everywhere. There's new construction. There's, just different groups you can get into. There's someone in our office, I don't know if Gretchen is on the line, but she was, newer to real estate. And so she joined different groups just to get to know more people. That's even what Jason Abrams says, go play tennis. I think that was his big thing about, find something you like, get people that and then you work with them, then you're working with people you like, and then they're going to refer you to people you like, and then your business will just explode.
I have a tip on builders. So if you guys, like in California at least, if you guys go to the new construction sites and start meeting the site reps, guess what? A lot of those people who are coming in to buy those homes, what do they have to do? They have to sell.
They have to sell their home.
Yeah, so maybe it would be a good idea to start building relationships with those site reps. And then that way, when the person comes in that's buying and has to sell, they can call you.
Right, that's awesome. All right, so think about what new sources of leads you will explore. The other pieces, you want to focus on, 2 or 3. 3 of them would be tops, but you want to get good at what you're doing. Don't go, okay, I'm going to do all of these things, because if you do all of them, you're not going to do all of them well. So you definitely want to pick the ones that are going to work and practice and become and master those.
Yes.
Okay, so does anyone still have something right now in their mindset about lead generation that they need some help working through? Awesome.
All
right, and so you just to wrap it, I mean, look at I talk really fast, so if I went too fast, it's recorded. You can slow me down. So just remember, no one can punch you through the phone. People do want to hear from you in your sphere right now. Even when we get to calling strangers again, you come from contribution. You are helping people. You're the professional. You're good at what you do. There's a reason you're on this call. It's because you're good. And so go out there and help people. And that is why we all got into this, and to make a ton of money, which is cool too. Study your market, know your market, practice what you say daily. Definitely, if you don't have a script practice partner yet, get one.
Or 5.
I was going to say, thank you. I'd say, or you can have several different people, and we have 3 market centers. The nice thing is, if you find people in the other market centers to practice with, then it's not the same people that you see every day, and you're not getting the same thing over and the same objections, and you learn how to handle different things, and plus you just build your network as well. Lead generate, cross off 3, 4 to 6 hours daily. Direct response prospecting, that is definitely when someone reaches out to you. And once we're out of the pandemic, that's when you want, when the business starts booming, that is when you're not going to have time to mince your words. Basically, you're going to need to go in, hey, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell right now that I can help? And that way you find the motivated buyers and sellers, and your business explodes. Okay, so don't put away this guide without developing a plan. This is all the in-person stuff. So I just did an hour and a half and 50 minutes. It's kind of how David can attest to. That's kind of how I do things. Any questions?
At the speed of now, baby, getting it out there. It's brilliant.
All right, I'm going to go back to, how do
Anybody
I
have hangups still?
Yeah, now would be the time. So, like, putting this out here, now would be an opportunity where if you were like, I don't want to call people, I don't know what to say, I don't know how to do this, you're feeling apprehensive on some level at all whatsoever, that you're stuck on something, you probably have some of the top lead generating people from in their sphere, and calling perfect strangers right now would be the time to ask those questions.
Any objections that you want handled?
So my expectation that is in the next 90 days, everyone's taking 5 to 10 listings a month.
I just
No questions.
For me, it's just getting out of my comfort zone. I've been trying to make more videos on Instagram. You know, I've been getting a lot of feedback from it. People actually give, you know, saying, "Oh, here's my phone number. You know, I've been having a bad day. Let's talk about it," and just kind of like not sabotaging myself, I guess.
Absolutely. And so the more you practice and the more you get, so when you're getting the phone numbers on your Instagram, what on those, when are you calling them then?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's good. And then do you have other people that you're calling as well besides the videos? Like what is your goal each day?
I know my family and friends are getting annoyed at me because I have a pretty small circle, but kind of just still trying to, you know, call, like I have maybe like 50 in my phone. So just trying to switch it up every other day, calling people and trying to get more, you know, of my like older friends, like that I haven't talked to years, like from years back, just trying to get them, see like how they're doing. And
So you have an Instagram and you
Yeah.
said there's 50 people in your phone. How many Instagram followers or do you have?
couple hundred.
Okay, because let me just share, when I first left the team and went on my own, I was in your boat. Like I didn't think I had a huge sphere. So I went back, one of the first deals I closed was a girl I hadn't talked to in 30 years that I went to high school with, and we were Facebook friends. And I called her and she was living in an apartment with her child and 2 grandchildren and her fiance, and they bought, are you from California, Ashley?
Yeah.
Okay, just, so this won't sound big to you, but in Indiana, it was a $350,000 house, so that was cool. But it was like, you know, so that was, and then anyone you know on the couple hundred you have on Instagram, reach out to that, like send them something personally, not just the video, but do something and reach out to every single person. And so that will, and the more you do it, then that helps you get rid of any, I don't think you said self-doubt, but that's what I heard. So you said like you have a little bit of a hang up, or?
Yeah, just because I've been a stay-at-home mom for a while, so now I'm like, I used to be like very out there, you know, crazy, and I'll talk to anyone, but now being a stay-at-home mom, I'm kind of like, oh, don't talk to me, like I'm hiding.
Don't be a secret agent, Ashley.
Yeah.
You got
Ashley,
this. That's what I was before I did this.
No, for sure. So Ashley, I can attest to that. So I got licensed back in 06 and 07 in the midst of the crash. And I largely operated as a secret agent for about 10 years. And so I'm marginally doing business, man. And so what got me into action, number 1, was taking bold. 2, surrounding myself with people who believed in me, which I know at your office you do. And finally, was reaching out and talking to strangers so that I could show up and know what I was doing when I met with people in my database. So expires and FISBOs. And obviously, as Mark has continuously hammered down, was scripting and role playing with individuals who would challenge me and push me so that when I got to those sticking points with those strangers, when I called my database, I was freaking fearless. Food for thought.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing, is just reading the scripts. You know, at first I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to role play with anyone. How embarrassing. What if I like look stupid or something? But I need to stop thinking I'm not going to look stupid. Like, it's just, you know, it's part of the process. I need to do it. And with my fiance the other day, he was trying to role play with me, and I was like, even with him, I was like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing. But I'm like, why am I scared? Why?
My last year in full production, I spent 2 30-minute role play sessions before I even started on the phones.
Mhm.
So I started role play at 7:30. I role played from 7:30 to 8:30 with 2 different people every single day of the week. And at that point, I had 13 years of experience, 14 years of experience. So it wasn't like I was new.
Mhm.
Don't underestimate the value of practice.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's
And
that-
with the and with the practice comes the confidence to just be able to sit there and have conversations. Okay. And then it just becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. You have confidence, so you get better results. You get better results, so you get more confidence, and then you want to do it some more. And then, it keeps going and going and going. And likewise, the negative will have the same effect.
Mhm.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I can share with you recordings from when I stepped back into cold calling and stuff like that. It was not pretty.
No, it's so true. And the other piece is you have to start somewhere. Like, we've all been to Little League games and we've been to Major League Baseball games and we've been to, kids plays when they're in junior high. And then we've been to see Hamilton. So, everyone starts somewhere. And right now, that's why you want to do the role play, is because you want, don't be embarrassed, because guess what? The person you're role playing with, if they want to sell a house, they'll sell their own. They don't need, they're not going to use you. So that's when you get that all out. And just so you know too, even on the phone, when you're new or when you've been doing this for a long time, there's times you say things and afterwards you're like, well, that wasn't probably the best thing to say. And then just make the next call. It's, it really, and you will get better. And then Mark's exactly right. The more, Thomasina is on this call right now, and she was talking about with confidence, and with that, we had that conversation, and she's been doing a really good job of calling her database and doing the DTD2 and just doing it. And she's like, it really works. Like, she's like, she just feels better on the phone. Every time you keep going, you get better at it. Just practice.
You don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great.
I think
Full of awesome things today. Go ahead, Tommy.
I think the COVID-19 makes it much easier to call people. I think it was harder to call people because before it's like, what are you going to say to these people that you haven't talked to in ages? But the COVID gives reason for you to call, so it makes it much more comfortable to say, hey, just checking on you. That's an easier conversation than trying to pull from something, so I appreciate COVID in a way with my lead gen.
Brilliant, man. You can spin it, Thomasina, for sure.
Yeah. I had a quick question about calling the expires. I know that I would probably enjoy script practicing for the expires. However, I know that there was a tool that we were using for RedX, which is a paid tool to find expires phone numbers. How are you all finding the phone numbers for expires?
RedX.
Okay, that was what we were using. Okay, I didn't know if there was a free method.
No.
Everyone, but there's also Land Voice is another one, right?
Yeah, Land Voice is really
Land Voice and
economical.
And Vulcan 7.
Vulcan 7.
Land Voice,
Arch.
Tommy, Land
Arch
Voice
agent.
doesn't work in Indiana, David.
I'm not sure about other states, but I mean, like in Illinois, for the agents that are just starting out brand new, our MLS provides Remind, and a lot of those have phone numbers and email addresses in there. So if you're a new agent, you're trying to save costs, and have access to Remind like we do here in Chicago, then take advantage of that, because you will get a lot of phone numbers and a lot of emails for free, and then before spending money. There's a lot of different ways to get information of people without having to spend a lot of money. Obviously, once you want to spend some money, you go to Arch Agent and Vulcan 7, but there's some ways to get some of the information free of cost.
And for our agents, any of them who've been through my listing boot camp, another good source of business right now is what RedX offers, called For Rent by Owners. So these are people who have their properties up for rent on usually like on Zillow or something to that effect, and RedX sells their data. And when you call those people, one, they pick up because they're trying to rent a property out. And number two, it can lead to like 3 different opportunities. First of all, generally speaking, people who own rental properties own multiple properties and are always looking for a deal. So now you can start building your pool of investors, as Michelle referred to earlier, as a buyer source. So that's opportunity number one. Number two, you're looking for that 1 in 100 who's just like done with toilets, tenants, and troubles. They're like, you know what, just get me out of here. And if you can come with them articulately and present like, hey, look, this might be the top of the market. So if you're ever looking to liquidate and do a tax deferred exchange, I'd be happy to walk you through that. So then you have a seller. And then worst case scenario, in California, our leases are $3,000, $4,000 a month. You know, you can make $1,000, $1,200 commission check off of doing a lease, and you could list it for lease for them. So like those conversations can have like 3 different possible outcomes to it. So it's a resource that I would suggest that you all get really good at really fast, personally.
To add to what Mark is saying, I'm a newer agent. This is my 4th month here in Costa Mesa, and I was just cold calling recently, just
Wednesday,
homeowners with equity, and I decided to change my strategy to for rent by owner, and they're answering the phone at about 40% of the time. And I don't have, Vulcan 7. I don't have all these funds to be paying for these higher end numbers. I literally just paid $25 for 1 month of Mojo for their leads. And Wednesday night, there was a seller who, she's under contract. She wanted to sell. And I think a lot of these for rent by owners wanted to sell and their agents stopped working. So they are renting instead now. So I think there is a lot of opportunity there.
So I wanted to chime in on something here too. And I love that we're covering all different kind of ways of lead generation. We talked a lot about care calls to your database, although I also want to remind everybody that the phone calls are a portion of our communication with everybody that we know, and that's one-to-one communication. So it's high touch, it's also high time. It takes a lot of time to have those calls. And so in addition to that, not instead of, in addition to that though, if you are not using some form of email marketing to get real estate information into your database's hands right now, I think you're missing a big opportunity. If you're talking about command and the neighborhood nurtures and things like that, guys, it gives you massive clues about who to call, because when you log in and you can see people that are very active and engaged, you don't have to have a big reason to call anyway, and you don't even have to call about COVID. You can call them and say, hi, I was thinking about you, and they are thinking about real estate, and they say things like, oh, it's funny you should call, we were just talking about whatever. Like, and right now, you think people are spending more or less time on the internet compared to normal?
Oh, way more.
Way more.
They are spending way more time on the internet. So if you're not getting real estate information into their hands that they can choose whether or not to engage in, it's pretty passive. It's not like calling and being like, do you have real estate needs? You can get those things into their hands. It's highly leveraged. It just keeps running in the background, and it just helps you to, number one, continue building mind share, give them something to engage with right now. And then when you see who is engaging, it gives you a little bit of insider information about who out of all the people in your database you might want to call today. So if you're in command, use that. Other CRMs do that. If you use a different one, not all of them do. Some of them do. I would just make sure you're getting some form of leveraged communication out to your database as well, because that's ultimately, end of the day, for the vast majority of people that are on this call, that's where you're going to get the majority of the business that you get now and outside of right now. But in a time of a shift, it's those relationships that come through for you. That's another thing we haven't talked a lot about. I just want to make sure to point that out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
do that.
my agents, what do I tell you guys all to do with your database when you're scared to call them? Record a very sincere, generic, but sounds authentic voicemail and slide broadcast it to everybody and wait to see who calls you back. Play whack-a-mole, you can drop 500 voicemails for $20.
Yeah.
And see who calls back.
At a minimum, you may get a text back, especially if you craft your message in a fashion that's going to say, hey, give me a ring or shoot me a text. Let me know everything's okay. Whatever.
Here's what mine sounds like.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, it's Mark Bisbee. I was just thumbing through my phone. I saw your name. I thought I'd give you a call. Just reaching out. I was hoping your family's healthy and safe, and just wanted to hear back from you. So if you can call me back at this number, 714-469-2553. I say it twice because then if they use an iPhone, it'll print it in there. Or if text is more convenient to you, that you can text me on this number too. Anyway, I just hope everything's well. I look forward to hearing from you. Now, it sounds like I'm calling them sincerely,
100%.
but I'll just drop it to like 500 people and watch what happens. Guarantee you'll generate at least 3 or 4 leads if you drop it to 500 people at a minimum in probably 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I think I got one. Hey, I have an internet. I'm a sync user, so I'm having trouble connecting with some of the leads that I've yet to speak with that are now answering. So can I get a couple maybe suggestions on what you guys would say to internet leads that you haven't been able to connect with, in months, and here it is now they're picking up, and I'm getting a lot of hangups.
And a lot of times, I do a lot of internet leads, and in some of the classes that I teach, I always tell people, internet leads are about 6 months out, and most of those people are not going to engage with you personally. But the thing is that you have to be in communication with them. And one of the rules is that I tend to call them and then drop them a text at least once a week. And most of those text messages are campaigns that I build in my CRM. So if you're here at KW, obviously we have Command, and Twilio will do that for you. The other thing I do is that I put them in a campaign that is going to constantly drop something at them that's vital to them. Again, if you're using Command, you can use the biweekly nurture, but I also send them an email just checking in on them, and I kind of craft them so they drop at different times. And what I'm monitoring with internet leads is that, or any kind of lead, is are they unsubscribing? If they're not unsubscribing and they're still getting my material, that means that they still have me there and they're still willing to talk to me at some point. So just stay engaged with them and, set a reminder to call them every other week or so, and then drop them a text at least once a week. Just my text messages are simple, and I create them dynamic so they're a little bit different every time. It's like, hey, it's Ubaldo with Keller Williams. Just checking in with you. I just want to see how you're doing. Is there anything that I can help you with? Give me a call or a text at this number, and then, and I move on. And it's eventually within like 6 months, if they're really in the market, they're going to contact you. That's how internet leads work for the most part. Internet leads are not going to be tomorrow leads. I mean, you might get 1 in 100. They will be like, oh, I'm ready today. But if you just understand that your internet leads are long-term nurtures, you're going to be more successful and you're not going to get as frustrated.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything that they want to talk about? Hang-ups with any type of lead generation? Any questions about things people have talked about? Yes, Miss Annette.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Can you hear me? Okay,
Yep.
wonderful. I know we were working on FISBOs together, but how does that sound right now? I want to start working on FISBOs again while we're in COVID. How would I go about calling up the FISBOs when we're going through COVID right now? If I started calling them up Monday, how would that conversation sound? Can you give me some advice on what I should?
Colleen has her hand up.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to give you the script. What I'm going to say
Okay.
is, wouldn't you agree that a FISBO needs you now more than ever?
I agree, and that's why I want to start
Because
calling.
we have channels and avenues and opportunities that they don't possibly have. And now with COVID especially,
Yeah.
they don't have the opportunity to have an open house and let people through the door and all the tools that we have. So I would just call by saying something like, hey, this is Annette over at Keller Williams. I'm just curious. I saw you had your home up for sale by owner. Have your plans for selling your home changed at all since this epidemic started?
Okay.
And then either they still intend to sell or they don't intend to sell. And if they still intend to sell, then you can go right into how you could get them sold and what you could do differently. Anybody else have something different? Mark, Alex,
I do.
David, Michelle?
I do. I was actually just talking with Marcos Orozco and how he's converted, I think, 2 or 3 for sale by owners in the last week.
Mhm.
And what he's doing is California Association of Realtors came out with the form, the PED form, where it's an addendum to the listing agreement where they authorize people to come in their home if necessary. And then any showing, both the seller, and the listing agent, the buyer and the buyer's agent need to sign it prior to going in. So he shows them these forms and says, look, I mean, this is how serious it is on a liability standpoint. And they go, oh, I had no idea. And he said, well, unfortunately, you can't use these forms because you're not a member of California Association of Realtors, but you should probably talk to your attorney and have them draft something so that way your liability is covered. And they're like, no, I don't want to deal with any of that. So I mean, he's used that angle, like just advising them legally, like what's going on, and this is how we can still do it. However, there's certain safeguards and liability practices you need to put in place. And he's coming from contribution, but it's scaring them into hiring him almost, you know, like, oh, I didn't realize how serious it is. I need professional representation now. And he's using it as an advantage to him in the market.
And even, I don't know if there's anything legally right now in Indiana that we can sign like that, Annette. And you can still use that exact same idea to say, you know what, right now, you want to make sure that the people that are coming through are serious buyers. You don't want people, I mean, there's just too much going on, and that you should have a professional handling this.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing that I'm telling some of the new agents, like I know Louis at my office has been successful converting some of those FISBOs, is call them with contribution. Offer them a free landing page for their property. Can I come in and do a virtual tour of your property and create a landing page, you know, a page that will generate leads for you? And, you know, can I drop off flyers for you, you know, that will help you, you know. The whole point is to be there as a contributing person, helping them during a time of need. And it's converting these FISBOs because they, like Mark said, they don't want to deal with it. And if you could create a landing page for them, if you could generate the leads, if you could sell their place, they're going to want you to list their property. They don't want to deal with the mess.
And Annette, you had some FISBOs that you were talking to before. So make sure to call them again right now too, just because you already have a relationship with them. And that's the other thing with FISBOs and expired. Some expireds are going to, even in the future, are going to say, oh, I'm taking it off the market. Be that agent that calls them every week. Just because if, you know, a lot of times it's the last person standing, the one that finally, you know, makes that 6th phone call. And so follow up is key with that as well. And FISBOs for sure.
Thank you, everyone. That was appreciative.
You bet. Did you close?
Today, I'm closing today.
What time?
4.
4 o'clock, yay. Is that your first closing, dear?
This is. This is my first
congratulations, Annette. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I love this, Michelle. You let out a really great class. This was fantastic, man.
Thank you, and thank you very much, everyone. Have a fabulous weekend. Have a wonderful Easter if that's something you celebrate, and be safe and stay healthy.
Great job. Great job, Michelle.
Have a great day,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks.
You guys have a great day.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.